Welcome to Every Night is Game Night, where two busy dads get games to the table by any means necessary. Check us out, along with other great podcasts, at dicetowernetwork.com.
Every Night is Game Night, episode 131, Games 2.0 and the Moral Quandary of Social Media. Hey everybody, welcome back to Every Night is Game Night. This is Anthony once again with Jason.
Yo, my peoples, what's up?
Alright, we got some game reviews, some discussion.
Sounds like a regular episode to me, my friend.
I know, yeah, it's like once a month we hop on and do one of these, and I'm like, ooh, interesting.
If that. Actually, this one might be, we say it's a regular episode, review and discussion. So, but if you don't want to hear, we're in game industry, right? We love games and we're here to have fun. But recently, Anthony and I, we've been talking, we're always chatting on Slack and everything. And we're going to get to Slack discussion in just a second. But we were talking and man, we hit upon a topic, we did some stuff on Facebook and social media, and we got some stuff to say. Yeah. So if you don't want to hear, if you want to kind of keep the positivity on games, and maybe, hear the game content and, just do what you can with the rest of it. But it's really important. In all seriousness, I think that we're going to hit some important discussion. So we're really excited for it. But we know how you guys like to roll. We're going to talk about the games first. We have a couple of games 2.0, by which I mean some reiterations of game. We have Duelosaur Island and Judge Dredd, which are reiterations of Dinosaur Island and Lost Expedition, respectively. We're going to get to that in a second, but we have two announcements before we go on. Anthony is going to give us the first major announcement that is relevant to ENGN. Go for it, buddy.
Yeah, so if you guys listen to Board Gamers Anonymous, you'll already know this, but if you don't, that is the other podcast that I help produce, and we've been running a Patreon now for a couple years, and one of our goals was that when we reach a certain point, we'd start running contests every single week for people who were backing at a certain level. And 2 weeks ago, we hit that goal. So we have launched those contests. We already have 3 winners as of recording this, and by the time you hear it, there'll be several more. And it's exciting. We've got Game Surplus is helping us out with the games. We have a big long list of games. Most of them are relatively new. Some stuff out of Germany and Essen and all sorts of awesome stuff. And if you are interested in that, and if you want to help support this show in particular, because again, that money from the Patreon not only helps to put together Board Gamers Anonymous, but it helps with the hosting and the website and any of the social media costs, anything that goes into this podcast as well, Every Night's Game Night. So you'd be helping us out on both fronts, and you would then be also entered into a contest. Now, the contest is like the big splashy thing that we want to promote, but there are other things involved too. On the BGA side, we have bonus episodes every couple weeks. We also have a Slack group where everybody is able to hop on at any level, if you back at any level at all. And there's, a good 40, 50 gamers in there talking about, what they've been playing lately, whether a new Kickstarter is worth it. Just a couple weeks ago, I asked everybody for their thoughts on the bracket that we just put together for March, and people were chiming in with what kind of games they thought should be on there. So it's a lot of fun. It's similar to the Facebook group that Jason has up for Every Night is Game Night, but it's a little more exclusive. It's on Slack, and you can take it with you. So yeah, if you want to help us out with the show, we'd really, really appreciate it. And you can hit that up at patreon.com/BGA. And there are multiple different tiers on there, all sorts of cool stuff you can look at. But any little bit helps. Anything you can provide or help us with just to keep things up and running and help us do bigger, better things, that's awesome.
We even have a game designer in there, the designer of Archmage. Tim Hirama is a good friend of ours. He pops in there, and it's actually been really fun to talk about, talk about his game and, his perspective on other games, which is a pretty interesting thing. We have some, just people that are, they talk about life too. I'm you guys know, I'm a big fan of when people just kind of share about random stuff. It's like, oh, I'm beginning with my kid, blah, blah. It's a cool community. It's small and doesn't always have discussion going on. But when it actually does happen, it's pretty cool to have people chime in and talk about stuff in a very intimate setting. And, BGA has been a flagship for 5 years. ENGN would not exist without Anthony and BGA. So if you are an ENGN fan, it really does benefit us to go over to the Patreon and help us and help out BGA, because it helps out the show as well. It'll be really, really awesome if you did so. All right. So that is the announcement for Patreon. The second one is the one we make every single week. But first, we are going to get to Liz and the Liz We Trust segment. Hit us up with this. Some really good Kickstarters the last couple of episodes. Really, really good ones. The ones that I've really considered backing. Let's see if Liz has another one that you might consider backing as well.
Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I'm here to encourage your Every Night is Game Night acquisition disorder. Today I want to talk about a project that isn't on Kickstarter, but is up for pre-order. Cartographers, a role-player tale. Designed by Jordy Aiden and published by Thunderworks Games, Cartographers is a new game set in the role-player universe. In this game, you'll be drawing your own map over the space of 4 seasons, trying to meet scoring conditions that change as the year goes by. Score well, and you'll earn the favor of the queen who sent you to do her bidding and map her lands. This looks like a really fun game, set in a world that many solo players already know and love. Happy gaming!
All right. So I don't... by the way, thank you, Liz. Like we said, we never know in Liz We Trust. We never know what we're going to get. A couple of weeks ago, Liz talked about Coloma. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, I think so. That's how I'd pronounce it.
Is that something that you're looking at, you're interested in?
I did eye it. Yeah, I'm on a pretty strict Kickstarter budget, but if it was a little bigger, that one would be in there. So it's tough because we've got so many expansions going up. And that root expansion is already kind of eating my March budget. So.
Yeah. When is that root going to hit?
March 14th, which is probably after you guys are listening to this, but for me, it's in a week. So.
By the time you listen to this episode, Anthony will have backed root.
Almost certainly, yes.
I think What's Ease Playing, guy I follow on Twitter, called it, what's it called? The Search for Mole Money.
Yes, I love it.
And Anthony's like, here, have it.
Yeah, take the monies, even though I rarely use the expansion characters anyways.
So a bonus Kickstarter preview, Root, whatever expansion that is, go ahead and check that one out as well. Anthony has already checked it out. He is totally in. All right, so let us get to some reviews. Speaking of cute creatures, we are going to go from moles to dinosaurs. Anthony has had a chance to play Duelosaur Island, which was, I guess this was released last year, in a late-ish last year. What was that?
Yeah, I think I got this like the last week of 2018 from the Kickstarter too. So like official release, maybe it's still kind of up in the air, but yeah,
got it.
Pretty recent.
So this one was designed by Ian Moss and published by Pandasaurus, and Anthony's going to tell us all about it.
Yes. So there's 2 ways I could do this. One is it's Dinosaur Island, but they pared it down in these ways, or I could tell you all the rules. So I'll probably do something in the middle. For those of you who have not played Dinosaur Island, the basic idea is you run a park, basically Jurassic Park, but in bright neon 90s colors. You will run through these various different stages at the beginning of every round. There's this draft for these dice that give you like various types of DNA, which is a resource you're going to have on a board. You spend that DNA to build dinosaurs. You're also going to have a secondary part of the round where you're buying different upgrades for your park, new attractions, food things, all these various things you can add, new abilities you'll be able to activate. The game runs through like several different mechanics, but it's broken down into phases. So you have the drafts early on to get new dinosaurs and get new stuff in your park, etc. And then later on, you'll be placing your own workers onto spaces on your own board that you have upgraded over the course of the game. So the goal here is to have the most exciting dinosaurs in your park. But all of those dinosaurs bring with them a certain level of threat. And you will need to offset that threat by upgrading your security level. So if you choose not to do that, when people come visit your park, which is the final phase of every round, you'll be drawing these visitors from a bag. Some of them are just regular visitors, and some of them are hooligans who don't pay you. But what ends up happening is those people get eaten because you have not upgraded your security accordingly. And if they get eaten, you don't get the benefit of them being in your park. You get the entrance, the money for them coming in, but you don't get the points and extra money that they might spend in the park because they're dead. So you
can't loot their bodies. They're dead.
No, I know, right? Someone's got to clean
dead
it up.
in your park. They have the money.
Well, maybe they're inside the dinosaur's belly at this point. I don't know.
Fine. There we go. You got me.
So you're trying to balance all these things, like what's your excitement level versus what's your threat, versus where are your victory points and all this stuff, right? And it's a great game. I really enjoyed it. The one thing about it, though, is that it is a huge, sprawling mess of a table hog. Like, if you try to bring this thing out for anything more than 3 players, and honestly, really, even with 3 players, it takes up an enormous amount of space because there are all these boards for everything I just described has its own board, and you have your own board. So it's a biggie, and there's a lot of components, and it flows very smoothly, but at the same time, it's just a lot of stuff. And so when you set it up to play solo, you're putting all this stuff out, and it's just like, it's a lot of setup time to play this game solo. The solo's not bad. It has like this Automa deck, but it's a big presentation. So that brings me to Duelosaur Island. And the reason I backed this and picked it up is it's a smaller version of the game, uses a lot of the same mechanics, and it also has a solo mode built in. Obviously, though, the game is designed for 2 players, one-on-one, so it is pared down in a lot of ways. Now, the main way this game has been altered for the 2-player variant is that you now have really just one deck of cards that consists of all the dinosaurs, the attractions, and the specialists that you'll be picking up. These are going to be picked up in a draft. So there's a 2-player draft. In the solo mode, the Automa's going to have like a checklist you run down into what they take out of the draft, but it's still a draft. And so what you end up having is you're going to have dice out, a certain number of dice, I think 5, and then 3 cards. And then those will be drafted over the course of the beginning of the round until everybody has taken 3 of those, each of those 8 things. When you take your turn, it's going to be very similar to Dinosaur Island in that you need to have the DNA to produce the dinosaurs, you need to have the money to produce the attractions, but instead of having this big sprawling park on your own board, you just tuck the cards under your personal player board. And it plays much quicker because of all this. So same basic rules apply. You're building up your excitement level, which in turn increases your threat, which in turn offsets if you increase your security, and you're trying to get the most points from your visitors. But there aren't actual visitors coming to your park. There's no park board. There's no purchase board. There's no draft board. It's all consolidated into this one little space, which is really nice. In terms of the mechanics, it really does feel kind of like a smaller, portable, streamlined version of Dinosaur Island. I don't know how much... I mean, I liked it. I enjoy this game. It's not like, oh, I love Dinosaur Island, but this doesn't do it right. This does it great, and it has all the basic ideas that I liked about Dinosaur Island. It's just... I just have, for whatever reason, not been motivated to bring this one back to the table as often. 2-player only games obviously have a limited appeal, but at the same time, the solo mode, again with an Automa deck that works decently well, it just feels like a lot to do for a game that's just it doesn't have enough to it to warrant the setup and the run through of this, I'm not gonna say complicated Automa, but not simple either.
It's very flowcharty.
Exactly.
If that, then this, if that, then this, if that, then this. And, I'm used to flowcharts in GMT games, not necessarily big pastel, fluffy dinosaur games.
Yeah, a game of this weight, I just want the game to be like, all right, you have one of these 3 things, or draw a card from a deck and you'll move that thing or do this thing. Like, I don't want to have to think a bunch about what the opponent's going to do. I don't mind that, like you said, in a big heavy game where there's a lot to think through and decide how you're going to operate those things. But in a game like this, I kind of want it to flow a little quicker, and I don't feel like it does. It doesn't feel significantly faster or more streamlined than Dinosaur Island, except in like the space it takes up, at least from the solo side. That's not to say either game is long for me personally, but the main benefit of this is just it takes up less space. I don't know. I just don't feel like there's enough of a difference. Like I have them both now. I'll probably pass this one along because I'll keep Dinosaur Island.
Mm-hmm. So I did not like Dinosaur Island. If you heard our, I forget exactly, we did this on the books episode with Jen, the librarian, and it's just a game, I just feel like it's that the worker placement, put it here, do a thing, get one thing, change it for two things. It just felt so like, and because I don't have any attachment to the theme. I have yet to meet the person who just like, oh, I'm going to play this game and does not have attachment to Jurassic Park in particular. So, take that for what you want. However, this smaller game, I actually enjoyed more. It's not like the greatest game in the world. It's probably like a 7 out of 10 for me. So it's not like, this kind of like transformative experience, but I thought it was solid. And it like you mentioned before about some of the game elements in Dinosaur Island that it took out, and I felt like it was for the better. So like the visitors, and Anthony mentioned bandits. So like sometimes there's a phase, you get visitors, you score points off the visitors, but then there's bandits. In the big game, the bandits are random, and you could do an amazing job with a whole lot of people and then pull a bunch of bandits and just like ruin your turn. Why? Because bandits are cool? No, they're not cool at all. They're not not cool. There's no bandits here. It's like you just get a bunch of people depending on your excitement level. And then there was like this weird thing about like you can make dinosaurs, but like where do you place them? If you have one here, then he can't be here. Like, I don't care. Like I just want to put dinosaurs down. Here you just tuck the card under your player mat and you have dinosaurs. That's all I want to do. And it still has some decently smart decisions about, especially there's like ways to wrinkle up point scoring. So you might get a scientist that alters your scoring condition. And so like, okay, if you get a bunch of large carnivores, you get a bonus. So now you have a focus. Now you're going to focus on large carnivores. You're going to move on from other stuff. And that takes a different type of DNA to get. It takes more specialized DNA. So your play style now has to match what you did, which is great. I love that. I love that you can kind of go for different scoring styles, which makes for different strategies. And, so the big game has that too, but I'm able to get that in a much smaller package than the solo that works. You're passing it along. I'm actually keeping mine. I traded for it because I was interested, and I'm happy with it. The solo's pretty neat, and I have a couple of clients who love dinosaurs. It is the kind of game that I can show like a not quite gamer, but like a general geek who's into Jurassic Park is like, all right, I got a game that's a lot like Jurassic Park. It's not like a crappy Hasbro game. Boom, check it out, and I can play it. And sure, it's not going to be my favorite, but it has a role, and it's like in terms of the larger project of game evangelization, like spreading the love of gaming to people. You need that stuff, even if it's not my favorite, it's someone's favorite, and I'm happy to play it. So in my collection, I'm happy it's there. You can keep your big honking, overproduced, whatever. I got this nice tight package. I wish more games did that. I'm positive on it, man.
Yeah, no, I'm not negative. I just like the bigger game better, and they're not different enough to warrant having both of them. So, like, I'd probably still rate it a 7 too. I just think I'd give Dinosaur Island a 7.5. So it's
okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I think it's not a horrible game. It's just it wasn't quite for me. But yeah, I understand why you do like it, and it's not one of those situations where you're like, I love it. What's wrong with you? And I'm like, no, I get this one. Yeah. So not all of them, but this one
scratches a lot of itches. So I would definitely give it a recommendation, at least a play, in terms of the BGA scale. Buy, play, everything. It is worth at least a play if you have somebody who is attached to the theme or someone who is not. They want like a lower bar of entry. And a smaller package and everything. Take a look at Duelosaur Island. I enjoyed it. All right, my turn. So we are going to go to the second of our games 2.0, reiteration of a previous game. This is Judge Dredd, The Cursed Earth. This was designed by Pierre Sylvester, published by Osprey Games. This is the reiteration of The Lost Expedition. The Lost Expedition was a pretty popular game among solo players and co-op fans. It won our short award for 2017. Anthony, I think you enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
You still play it, or is it just kind of like, in the pile?
You know what? I do get this one out occasionally. I need to pick up that new expansion, but surprisingly, it does hit the table fairly frequently, for me at least. fairly frequently.
Well, yeah. I mean, it does something that is unique, in the sense like it's card management, and but it's so hard. it's really challenging. I'll get to that in a second. But so if you don't know Lost Expedition at all, the way Lost Expedition works is you have a hand of oversized cards, and that's basically the core of the game. Is this like kind of thickish stack, maybe 50 cards deep, of oversized cards, and these are the obstacles that you're going to be playing round by round, representing your character, which is a meeple on a separate kind of row of landscape cards that is progressing from one side to the other to the quote unquote lost city of Z. So that when you play the obstacle cards, that deck of 50 cards, you're going to have to kind of encounter the symbols, and the symbols represent these threats. So you have to encounter a monster. You have to, or not a monster, but a creature. You have to shoot it. You encounter pit traps, and you have to jump over it. And that's very abstracted. So it'll just give you, it'll give you like these little symbols. It's like, okay, here's a tent now. You have to, someone with a tent expertise or someone with the tent item has to use it. This is not a game where you feel powerful. This is not a game where you build up. This is a game where you just survive. Most of the time, as you're going through these obstacles, you're going to just lose health. And like just slowly, you have these three characters in front of you. You're going to be losing health. It is fully cooperative, so people can play it cooperative. There's a competitive mode. I don't like the competitive mode, so I'm not going to speak to that. Solo, I think this is best as a 1 to 2 player game. So like a 2-player co-op or a solo, that's kind of where the game really hums. And you're just trying to survive. On your hands and knees, very often, if you do win, you're going to have both your characters dead. Your last character is going to be on 1 health because you have to really spend a lot of health in order to get through these cards. And it's pretty thematic. So you can kind of tell a story, like if you pull a card and it's like, snake attack, then of course, either you shoot it, with a gun, or you waste a lot of time and you kind of run around it. The card is a symbol for that. So you can really kind of tell a story of, what happens to your character. It has this next iteration, the Judge Dredd, has the Judge Dredd IP, which Judge Dredd, I'm not sure if you're into that IP. I'm not. Like it's a comic book. I know what it is. I saw the Sylvester Stallone movie, which was terrible. It was really bad. But the important thing to note is that where Lost Expedition was a jungle, kind of exploration theme, this is post-apocalypse. So there's some people that look at post-apocalypse and go, ooh, radiation and mutants and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, if you want that, then this is the game for you. So even if you don't have an attachment to the Judge Dredd IP, it has that veneer. So how does it deliver on that theme? A couple of mechanisms are in it. It's basically the same game. The couple things they change is that they add this effect called radiation, which radiation kind of, it does the Fallout thing, and I know some games kind of do this. Like when you get radiated, it kind of lowers your health threshold. So where in Lost Expedition, your characters have like 4 hit points. In this game, your character will have like 5 or 6, but then you have this effect that kind of raises the threshold of your health. So it's kind of the same thing. But I don't know. I get that. Like I've been taught that radiation means cutting off your max hit points. So that's a thing I know. So it kind of helped me immerse in the theme. There's also like this psi ability, so now you can kind of like spend a health to like scry the deck, and that's psionics is kind of a thing that also occurs in post-apocalypse. I mean, this isn't earth-shattering stuff, but this is the kind of thing that you're in for. You're also in for just like the art, and if you're into the IP, you're into that as well. I don't know that this game offers too much that is different from Lost Expedition, especially in the context that Lost Expedition has an expansion, which is not a huge deal. It's almost like 4 alternate scenarios. Doesn't add too much. But if you want the game mechanical experience with the extra little wrinkles, then I would recommend go for Lost Expedition. But if you are a post-apocalypse person, if that's something that you're into, then this game delivers. It has it has the same deal. It has that crushing challenge. And I'm not sure how fun crushing challenges. I've played this game 7 times solo. I've yet to win. I'm coming close, darn it. But I'm yet to win. So I don't know, man. I'm gonna come back to it. I really am, because it's different. I don't have a game like it. I really don't. That's like just a straight up survival game. And I know like Unbroken is coming out. That's kind of another game where you kind of lose resources. No, I guess Friday, but that's a whole different game. Yeah, I mean, this is a unique game, and it's a neat IP. So yeah, go ahead and check out Judge Dredd: The Cursed Earth. I have to give it a recommendation, just the same as Lost Expedition. Just don't get both; they're the same game.
Yeah. All right. Well, I will stick with what I have, because I really like the Lost Expedition, and I really like the theme too. So I have no reason to shift gears there.
Oh yeah, you're like a whatchamacallit. You're a Lost City of Z. You know, that whole expedition. Like, you're a fan of that.
Yeah, when this came out, I was excited about it before I knew what it was, just because I like the theme of it. I have, like Quest for El Dorado, the Reiner Knizia game, like all that stuff. I love that stuff.
So you're getting mystery tales for Robinson Crusoe?
Yes, absolutely. Very excited for that. Yeah, never even played Voyage of the Beagle because obviously can't find it, but the new one I'm all about.
They're supposed to be getting it back 2019, maybe later this year into next year, and they're gonna like blow it out and make like a real expansion, the Voyage of the Beagle. So,
oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, I've only heard good things, but obviously it was in print for like 10 minutes because it's Z-Man.
All right, so yeah, so the two games that, if you like the themes, if that sings to you, solid mechanisms, go ahead and check those out. All right, so if you listen to ENGN for the game content and for like fun and good times, I think you're good to go. We're going to get into a discussion that we're calling the moral quandary of social media. It's a really important topic because let me just kind of lay out right at the outset. Like, I mean, we're going to, we have some issues, but right at the outset, we want to just kind of be clear. I think that social media does some really good things. I don't think this hobby would be what it is without it in a really important sense. So we're on the Dice Tower, and the Dice Tower is a YouTube channel, and we're counting that as part of that kind of the deal as well. And I have a Facebook group that I run every Daddy's Game Night with, and Anthony is always asking the question of the day, Facebook, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Meetup.com is another thing that I don't think that we would be here as gamers and having as much fun as we are, connected with as many people as we are without social media. So I think at the outset, I just want to say, I don't want to just dump on it. There is a lot of good stuff that social media does. I think you'd agree, right?
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've warmed you up, we've encountered a couple of things that have us really questioning like how we should be engaging with all this social media stuff. There's a couple of things, and I'm going to pick on Facebook for a second. So Facebook is kind of it's been in a lot of trouble. So if you don't know anything, if you haven't read any news, if you're one of those people that's like, I don't want to read the news, I don't want to know nothing, I just want to have fun. Just to set the context, like Facebook, there's a lot of problems there. I mean, they've gotten into a lot of trouble recently in terms of data privacy, that they don't keep up with a lot of the security protocols. Like, their big thing is move fast and break things. So they're moving so fast, moving faster than security, so they've invited all these people on the social network, but they don't really have the security tools to keep our data private. So, they're these third-party actors that can come in and, I'm joining a game group and it's great, but then I'm opening myself up to either these bots or these bad actors that are going to harvest my data and harvest my friends' data. It's like, wow, that's a thing. My wife and whoever else has data, and now these people can kind of, just fish it. And, why is that important? Well, I mean, when I say private data, I mean everything. Because Facebook asks for everything. They ask for, your school. They ask for your jobs. They keep your search history, kind of if you search for things within Facebook. And, there's a kind of new aphorism, show me your search history and I will show you yourself. I mean, the things you search for really do say a lot about you. And now these companies kind of have access to it. And Facebook has just not been good about keeping that stuff private. I mean, I can go through the whole litany. This is not a news program. It's just kind of putting it out there that it's very questionable, just being on that platform and how much they kind of prioritize profits over keeping us safe in some ways. Okay, so another angle that I wanted to cover while we were on the topic was content moderation on Facebook. I was inspired to talk about this in response to an article that I read recently on the online periodical called The Verge. The article is called The Trauma Floor, an expose on the lives of Facebook content moderators. Yes, mods. There isn't a forum around that can survive without mods, keeping things safe, keeping things family friendly. And it is not a great article. I mean, it's called The Trauma Floor for a reason. So it goes into this place called Cognizant, which is a contractor that Facebook uses, so they kind of outsource a lot of it. It's not great. So the mods are low paid. They're paid $15 an hour, and $15 an hour in US dollars is just not a lot of money. Works out to, kind of $30,000-$40,000 a year, which is not, that's not going to do too much. I mean, compared to Facebook's kind of, the programmer, you can start off at like 200,000, going upwards. So it tells you how important they regard those people. The job itself really stinks. They micromanage your time. It's kind of like slave drivery, as the article kind of depicts. The worst part of the job, though, is all of the stuff they see. I mean, people uploading stuff on Facebook. Holy schmoly. 2 billion people, so you're getting a wide swath of folks. But, these people are in charge of filtering out the worst. And if you don't want to hear about some of this stuff, just go ahead and skip ahead a couple of minutes. But they're filtering out, not just like inane garbage, but really violent stuff. They're filtering out murders and suicides and drug use and, hate speech, racist speech. I mean, just the worst that humanity has to offer. And you have this army of people, hundreds of images and videos per week that they have to deal with this stuff, and they have to filter it or they have to allow it. And it's just this crazy system. And it's very traumatic seeing some of this stuff. It was recently this big controversy about the shooting at 2 mosques at Christchurch, New Zealand, which was streamed online. It's nuts. And, so I'm not sure how this particular group of moderators interacts with Facebook Live, but they're, that part of the big problem was they couldn't stop it from being shared. So people would kind of rip the video and repost it. And, these moderators are in charge of filtering that out, and they have to see this, people getting shot and everything. It's just awful. You can't help but be traumatized by repeated exposure to this. So they're describing people who are suffering from depression and anxiety and PTSD, social isolation, just having all these problems. And from a mental health perspective, the thing that kind of stuck out to me the most was they have mental health counseling there, but the counselors are there just to kind of push them back into work. It's like, oh, you're good. You had your 15 minutes to relax and discharge. Well, back to work. I mean, from a mental health perspective, I just think that's horrendous. So a lot of problems. I don't want to go on too much, but just to kind of give a sense for, this is what I'm seeing when I log into Facebook, when I engage you guys, because Facebook and all these other places are the medium through which I engage you guys. And I love you guys. I love, interacting and hanging out and getting messages. And I can't unsee some of this other stuff that I've been reading about and thinking about. I don't know, man. Anthony, I know I didn't talk to you about it like specifically, but I know you mentioned that you had looked at the article. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything you said. I'd seen discussions of this in the past and rumors and like people talking about how horrible it is to be a Facebook content moderator. So like this kind of expose really just put it all out there. And of course, Facebook's just like, nuh-uh, none of this happens. Because of course they are.
Well, I mean, I think they'll because they obviously the article's trying to be two-sided, and what they'll say is like, the $15 is higher than the minimum wage here, and people can freely go, and we have mental health services, and most of the time it's kind of boring, right? So if you're moderating 300 videos a week, and I think the threshold is like 400, like you have to go through 400 of the clips with like 30 seconds a clip, and you have most of them is just like dumb, and so like, people that are like, just saying something that's kind of on the border and you have to kind of say yes or no. So you're not seeing these terrible images all the time. So it's like, okay, whatever. But that's not the point. That's a crappy job.
Yeah.
Filtering through, I don't care. Traumatic, not traumatic, that's a crappy job. Like a really bad job. I don't want that. Like just kind of crapping in my head full of nonsense. And then every once in a while, you're going to see a murder, or you're going to see, drug deals. You're going to see like all this crap. And even if it's only every once in a while, that's so traumatic. And the way they have it set up is they can't get the real help that they need, these people. And these are the people that make Facebook like good. Like, a lot of people are going to be listening. And if you're this far and you're saying, oh, no. Like, this is really, really important because we're using Facebook, and Dice Tower uses Facebook, and Board Game Revolution, and all these big, groups that like everybody's having a good time. The reason why these feeds aren't full of crap, the reason why that, like the community is safe is because of these people who are treated so bad. And it just makes like, it's like, in the 90s when we found out that Nikes were made by sweatshop workers making like 7 cents an hour or something. It's like, man, it just ruins the whole experience, And it's almost worse because we kind of expect these tech companies to be a little bit more progressed, I guess. But, Mark Zuckerberg, we're joking about this. Mark Zuckerberg is Anthony's age.
Yeah.
He's in his 30s. And this is it. It's not like he's some new thinking whatever. I mean, the working conditions are just as terrible as ever. So I don't know. I mean, I don't even know where I'm going with that. Well, like,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different directions you can go there because it's just like you could talk about Silicon Valley, you could talk about the mentality of some of these founders, and like, everything should be open, and we're trying and we're breaking things and we're just pushing innovation, blah blah blah. They don't see the responsibility in what they're doing, and that's not really the point of this conversation because that's a whole other thing. But the idea is we use it proactive, like it's a huge part of what we do here, right? And like, for anybody out there who doesn't know, I am a marketer in my day job, so I do content marketing and strategy for mostly companies that sell to other companies, so I don't have to spend a ton of time on Facebook, but I use social media for work and everything else, and I've seen kind of the icky side of the business side of things too, like what you could get away with doing on the marketing and advertising side. Not necessarily that we use those things, but I know what's there. I can see what's there. And It's just, if you're going to use these tools, which honestly, I wish I didn't have to. I don't even like it very much. I never have. But if you're going to use them, it's super important to realize what goes into making them usable and kind of what we're taking for granted in that process, because it's difficult for me. I've gone through this several times in my head of like, I really don't want to do this. I'd rather just shut this down, or maybe I can find a different platform we can promote, and it just doesn't work. Everybody's there, and to get the content out there and get everybody engaged, which is the most important part. Like, we mentioned a contest at the beginning of the show, and we just had another contest on the other show about for the brackets. The only real way we can get people engaged with that and show it to them is to put it up on Facebook, and so that's a big part of what we do. But I think it's super important to be cognizant of just how bad it can be for some people, and just on a personal level.
Cognizant, you did it.
Huh?
That's the moderation company.
Yeah, right?
They got in your head,
yeah,
man.
Right? Incepted.
Subtly influenced. Yeah, I totally, I hear you 1000%. Like, because that's the moral quandary of this. Like, we want to engage with you guys. We want to be, and honestly, it's kind of why that, when we say, we want to build these communities and everything, like there's some board gaming communities out there that are like, bam, 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 post every day, questions every day, polls every day, and there's so much like, ferment and excitement. And I look at some of those other groups and I'm thinking, man, I want that too, but I have to use Facebook.
Yeah.
I have to use these. I just can't. Like, I don't know, like maybe just in my line of work, I'm very kind of attuned to, well, first of all, I'm attuned to like the social aspect of it. Like I know, like, I'm a political guy, and I read a lot, and I know I can't kind of unlearn what I know about some of these companies. That's number one. And number two, like we haven't even talked about kind of the personal level. Like we've talked about it on the company side. Like, is Facebook a bad actor? The answer is yes. for various reasons. Twitter and all these other things, like, are these bad actors? Honestly, yes. It benefits us, but that doesn't mean they're not bad actors. So those are two separate questions. But on the user side, on the people, are we happier people for being on Facebook? And there's so many studies, like every month you'll get a big study that's like, okay, are you happy with Facebook? Are you happy with Twitter? And for the most part, if you like the people who just stop Facebook, for the most part, it turns out that they're less informed, but they're way more happier. The threshold seems to be about 2 hours of use like a day, and that's even a lot. In terms of like making a scientifically observable effect on your mental health, like if you use it more than that, then oh man,
yeah,
the outcomes are like it's very anxiety triggering. Like you're looking at people's best self, and a lot of times you're looking at a phantom self. I once had a client. He was going through a divorce, and he posted stuff about him and his wife being happy for like a year. And he's like, and I'm talking to him about it. It's like, why are you posting this stuff? This is just crazy. You're going through a divorce. It's official. You got lawyers and everything. He's like, I have to do it. I can't, I want to be happy. Everybody else on my feed is happy. And then the divorce is finalized, and he just changes his status. And people are like, what? It's like crazy. Like what drives people to do that? So, as much as it connects people, I see the misery that it generates as well. The anxiety, the FOMO. I can't miss this. Somebody tweeted something, I gotta respond to it immediately. That's the big joke. Like, someone's wrong on the internet, drop everything, and I gotta respond to it. It really does have like this negative mental health effect for people who are in certain situations of their life. And so on all those levels, I just have this real ambivalence about engaging too far in the social media stuff. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, I've always kind of been on the same side of the fence, and obviously not from a professional level, but from the professional side, I've always been, I'm a writer originally, and the stuff I wrote ended up being used in marketing campaigns, and I moved into marketing. That's kind of what I do now. But I'm always very careful about what kind of marketing I do, because I don't like how it can be used. Like when you're good at something, you don't want to find out somebody's using it for evil, right? So
So actually, could you go into that? Because I know there might be a lot of people, maybe you made it this far in the conversation, but they're really unclear as to how. Like, how can these companies use our data or use advertising to quote unquote do evil? Like, do you have like an example of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot recently because Facebook got caught. But if you go into, for example, as somebody who runs business pages, I can go into Facebook business pages, and you can set up advertising campaigns. And those advertising campaigns let you target people by location, age, the interests, job titles, all sorts of stuff. You used to be able to target people by a lot more, like who they're friends with and what they like, and like very specific things. They've kind of loosened that up a little bit more, just because they were getting caught for how easy it was to manipulate their user base. But the ability to go in and publish content and then spend a little bit of money and put it in front of the audience you want it to be in front of, showing them what you want it to show them, is very easy. You could set up a new account and get it up and running in like 5 minutes. Now, what are you allowed to post anymore? It's a little up in the air. Back in the day, you post whatever the heck you want to whoever you want, and they didn't care because they just wanted your money. These days, they're quote unquote being more careful about it because they don't want to get caught again. But all these sites are like that. You can go into the back ends and you can say, I want to target people who live in Nebraska between the ages of 25 and 32 who like, board games and work at Walmart. Like that's something you could do.
Yeah. I mean, you could target kids. You could target, like Facebook says, how you have to be a certain age, but who listens to that? Come on, in 8 years old, you put any number and all of a sudden you're on Facebook. And is that on the parents? Yes. But you can't, and there's a lot of reasons why parents aren't often able to completely surveil their kids. And you have these very, very targeted ads. So if like the kid I mentioned before about search history, the kid searches for curious stuff. And if you have kids, you know they're going to search for pretty much anything that comes into their heads. So they put a search engine in there. They have certain friends. They like certain pages. And now those ads are coming, you know. If they're curious about anxiety, and now they're wondering about it, and now they're, you know, asking for something. And at that impressionable age, it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
Am I describing a scary scenario? Am I fear mongering? Am I being like overblown? I mean, as a parent, I don't think so. I want to know about this stuff, and it really is out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, it is important to say too, like certain things you can't advertise on Facebook. They're careful about, I mean, again, every time I say careful, I'm quote unquote careful as much as they need to be to not get in trouble. But like you can't sell pharmaceuticals or guns or things like that through ads, but you can get creative. There are ways to get creative and work around these things.
You absolutely can.
And the moderation on the ads is automated to a certain degree, unless there's a lot of text in your image, and then it goes to manual review. But again, if you're creative and you can get around the manual reviews, it's difficult for me as someone who does not do these things, but has used the tools enough to promote, you know, existing content to existing audiences or something, to see how it can be used, and then to read about how it's been used to manipulate people and be like, ugh, I hate that I do this, and have access to these tools, and that people don't realize what's available out there. And this is how Facebook makes all their money, right? All of it comes through these ads, and it's billions of dollars. So it's not going anywhere, and it's just part of the life we lead. But it's important to be cognizant. I almost say cognizant again, but it's important to be aware of why it happens and what people are able to do based on your information that you put out there.
I mean, and again, I don't want to talk to the skeptic. I want to talk to somebody that's saying, well, that doesn't apply to me. You know, I have a free will. I have a mind. I don't have to listen to these ads or anything. I used to teach morality, but before I became a therapist, I used to teach in the Catholic school, and I taught morality. You know, that's one of the theology courses that I used to teach. And I would always teach mass media. I was the only person that taught mass media, because to me, mass media is like one of the most important moral topics, because it shapes how we think about basically everything else. And I would talk about advertising, and the line every single time was, well, I don't have to listen to the ads. I have free choice. I have this. I have that. And yes, to an extent, you know. I mean, there's so many ways in which ads can just kind of nudge us and give us subtle clues about, you know, what is cool, what's not cool. Like, you know, if you see, like, especially if you're kind of young and impressionable, or if you haven't done a lot of thinking about something, let's just take beauty. And you know, you're kind of still forming your ideas of what's beautiful. And then you see like this, it's not just one ad, it's like constant of this is what a beautiful person looks like, and that's not you. You're gonna A, feel very anxious and put out by that, and B, kind of be more susceptible to this idea that I need a product, I need makeup, I need clone, I need something to make myself beautiful. And it's a very subtle thing, and we don't think we're prey to it, but you know, we are. We're to a much larger extent than we think. So going back again, we're very far afield of like actual gaming content, but that's what makes this that's how people engage with this stuff, is being on social media. That's how we, you know, talk to you guys. That's how we form communities. So we're really torn. Like when I read that Verge article, I was literally going to go to the Every Nice Game Night Facebook group and say, delete. I can't do this anymore. But then I came to my senses. There's some awesome people out there. I want to continue interacting with these awesome people. And just, but this is kind of the compromise that I reached. And I wanted to put this episode out there to really lay out our concerns. They're not just fear mongering. There's, you know, Anthony talks about it with expertise in the advertising field. I talk about it with expertise from the mental health field. Hopefully you learn something. And I'm just going to keep on working the problem until something kind of comes. I think that's where we're going to land and where we're going to go. Like we're not going to stop it, but we're looking for solutions. We're looking for alternative ways to kind of crack this nut, and we're not going to stop because these companies are just not getting better. It's too profitable to be evil, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's the big takeaway, is they have no incentive to stop. So we need to be aware of what's going on. All right, guys.
All right.
So let's, on that major downer of a note, let's wrap this episode up.
Yeah, I promise next week's episode will also be a mental health topic, but it'll be much more positive. It'll be ways at which we can actually help ourselves. But I needed to get it out there, man. Thank you for indulging me, Anthony.
Oh God, you said like, you want to complain about social media? I'm like, yep, I'm on board. every day I go like to my wife and I'm like, I hate this. I hate everything about it.
So let's do something positive next time.
All right, yeah. So that's gonna go and be everything for this week, guys. Obviously, talking about some important big stuff this week, and if you have any thoughts on it, comments, feedback, whatever it might be, definitely hop on to those social media channels that we're talking about.
Look at it. We're trapped.
We got to do it. No. So yeah, let us know. But also keep in mind, if you want to hop on a not Facebook platform, we have our Slack group. You can help us out on patreon.com/BGA and hop in there and have a conversation as well. And maybe not as much moral quandary.
And you know what? Actually, I got a couple of emails on BGG. BGG, small site. I'm not going to consider all the people who run that thing evil at all. I mean, the internet writ large is a tool. It's not good. It's not evil. Like, there are these incentives that are bad, but BGG is good. And I get a couple of people have emailed, like, especially after the teaching episodes. I didn't realize how much people got out of that. So, direct messages are great. Please, there's so many other ways to reach out to us that we don't have to go into that kind of moral stuff like that. You just, try. We're out there, send us a carrier pigeon, write us letters. We'll take anything.
Yeah. We're everywhere. Find us. So yeah, that's everything for this week. Until next time, go ahead and grab a solo game off the shelf and let's make every night game night.
Later, everybody.